Madam President, I ask unanimous consent the quorum call in progress be vitiated.
Without objection.
Thank you. We have three groups of speakers having to do with the vote that will take place at, I think it's 11:45. Is that correct? 11:45. And during that time, I will take the first 15 minutes. Then it will take place by the other members that have the amendment. So it would be two amendments, the Schatz amendment and my amendment. So now I did have in the intention of having more time and was going to kind of rejoice a little bit because right now I understand we're about to get the information on the suggestions that the Secretary of Defense has had after working over a realignment of some of our resources, particularly in Europe. And it's kind of interesting because this is something that 18 years ago, right now, 18 years ago this year, I tried to do unsuccessfully when Jim Jones was the Supreme Allied Commander, and we were not able to get it done. So now, after 18 years, we're going to try it again. And I will be talking at 4 o'clock today about that issue. It's a very significant one. Today we're considering the amendments to our National Defense Authorization Bill, and we're still working on a manager's amendment, but as I've previously noted, we've already agreed to more than 140 bipartisan amendments. Let me be more specific than that, because this is the first time that we've done this to a lesser degree in the past. This is the first time that the entire bill has been put together by members of the United States Senate. And to demonstrate that, the total number of amendments to date of the 21st of July includes our request prior to the floor. This is prior to coming to the floor. 818 amendments, of which 440 were Republicans and 428 were Democrats. Then the adoption of the substitute, and we all remember what happened then, we had 79 amendments. Those amendments were 34 were Democrat, 34 Republican, and 11 were joint. Then when amendments we adopted with the manager's package were 34, and the Republicans and Democrats. The Republicans were only 15, Democrats were 18, and the amendments on the second manager's package were 28, and the third were 34. So what I'm saying is, we had all these amendments. This is the first time there's been a bill that's just entirely written by the members, and that's why we are to the point now where we can get our amendments. It's been important to both Senator Reid and myself that we try to vote on at least a few individual amendments. This is something that we haven't been able to do in the last several years. We made this arrangement 2 weeks ago, and so 2 weeks ago we've set up some 6 amendments that will be voted on, and we'll start in just a few minutes voting on the first 2, who will be Senator Schatz and mine. So I'm glad we're doing this within the hour. The first 2 amendments will be by Senator Schatz and on the 1033 program. I'm strongly opposed to the Schatz amendment to end the 1033 program. I hear people talking about this, and I guess they don't realize what we've done in the state of Oklahoma. Our sheriffs, our law enforcement officers were quite upset when they thought that might be in jeopardy. The 1033 program is an effective use of the taxpayers' money by taking equipment that is not being used by the military and allowing it to go into the law enforcement sector. And it's something that all kinds of precautions have taken, but we're talking about adding a few more precautions. That program is an effective use of the taxpayers' money. In fact, since the program's creation in 1990, more than $7 billion worth of vehicles, desks, boots, computers, and more have been responsibly recycled into law enforcement. The equipment the military no longer needs that these agencies would be purchasing anyway. The equipment is always demilitarized so that it's appropriate and for public safety use. For years, local law enforcement has asked to do more with less, and now they face the liberal calls to defund the police. We need to be continuing this transparent, responsive program. You know, there are a lot of us who have a hard time believing that that's going on today, that people are trying to play down law enforcement, trying to break the laws, trying to say it's acceptable. This has never happened before in America, but that's what we're seeing right now. And that makes this program one that is even more valuable. Senator Schatz's amendment would place such stringent limitations on the 1033 program that it would make the program virtually impossible to use. Further, it adds only burdensome certification and reporting requirements. And I would just have to say, and I don't say this critically of Senator Schatz, he doesn't like the program. He wants to kill the program. And we're not going to allow this to happen. Let's say, just as an example, let's say that a sheriff's office in my state of Oklahoma or any other state decides that they want to receive sleeping bags that the Department of Defense no longer needs. Now, under the Schatz amendment, that sheriff's office would need to, number one, put the request for sleeping bags out for public comment 30 days prior. Secondly, receive approval from local and state authorities. And third, then file reports on how the sleeping bags will be used and what kind of training officers will have to receive in order for them to have the sleeping bags. And sheriff's officers are too busy working to keep our communities safe to file numerous reports on sleeping bags that they receive from DOD. And to put it bluntly, I think this amendment would kill the program, the 1033 program. Again, these are allowing trained law enforcement officers to use surplus equipment that's not going to be used, has no value to it because it's not going to be used by the military. So this is why both the National Sheriff's Association and the National Fraternal Order of Police strongly oppose Senator Schatz's amendment, and I ask unanimous consent at this point to include their recommendations, that one would be from the National Sheriff's Association, the other from the National Fraternity Order of Police, along with other consents and letters noting the opposition be inserted into the record at this point.
Without objection.
However, I support strong oversight of the 1033 program and understand the intent behind my colleague's amendment. We want to make sure that the wrong kind of equipment doesn't get in the hands of people who cannot properly use it. And I think that this program needed to be. And so we have actually put into an amendment that will be voted on. This will be voted on. It'll be the Inhofe amendment right after the Schatz amendment in another 30 minutes from now. So, and that's why we're offering an alternative to the Schatz amendment. Now, what it would do is place more narrow limitation on the transfer of Department of Defense equipment, includes weapons that cannot be used by state and local enforcement. And we're talking about weapons, you hear this all the time, weapons like weaponized tracked vehicles and drones and lethal grenades. Well, they're not being used anyway, but let's go ahead and put them on a list so that they can't be used. And that should satisfy a lot of people's concern. It also makes sure that those who receive this equipment also get necessary training in how to protect citizens' constitutional rights and de-escalation techniques. During defunding the de-equipping our law enforcement agencies simply won't fix anything. So making sure that they have the right equipment and the right training, it will. So this is what I request. I request that my colleagues vote no on the Schatz amendment and recognize the value of this program and vote yes on my amendment, putting new safeguards into the 1033 program. And with that, I have used the first 10 minutes. I would like to devote the 5 minutes for Senator Kramer.